the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hey everyone, today's guest is a man. I know, a man. He's a man who truly does everything. Mark Young is a friend of mine. He is joining and inspiring us today as a serial entrepreneur, educator. He's a CEO of a couple of different companies. And what I love about him is that he's all about embodying really amazing energies in the business world. And I very much consider him a spiritual entrepreneur. He and I have a really interesting conversation on all things AI, Ayurveda, feminine energy, masculine energy. He's such a cool guy. I love Mark. He's also the author of a couple of different books, including Date Your Clients and his new recent book, Radical Generosity. You can learn more about Mark at themarkyoung.com, but you're going to hear a lot from him in this really fun podcast, and I hope it will inspire some of you out there that are Ayurveda health coaches starting your businesses, and women out there that are looking to start their own little side hustle, because Mark has a lot of great information on that. All right, without further ado, let's get to the podcast.
We're here with another episode of Performance Driven Living, and this one's going to be a little bit different than usual because usually I'm talking to somebody because I'm questioning everything there is to know about the world. But today we've actually set this up a little bit different, and that is I am joined by my friend and beautiful soul and host of Spirit Sessions podcast, Katie Silcox. And I've known Katie for years now, and just I have to tell you, like few people, I'm high energy. And I mean this all super serious because I'm talking to Katie here too, because I've not said this to her. That is, I'm like a high energy, like I feed off of a crowd. And Katie's one of those people that when I spend any time around her, my soul calms down. And I mean that. And like that's a true compliment to you, Katie, because not a lot of things actually balance me. Yeah. But when I spend time around you, I find myself matching your energy. I mean, that's such a huge compliment to you because, like I said, I'm a bit of a spaz. But yeah, you calm me. Why is that?
Well, thank you. And I'm so happy we're having this conversation because without knowing it, Mark, you really touched into the essence of everything that I care about, which is how can we come into harmony with one another and with ourselves? And here we are. I'm a woman, you're a man. And we've kind of forgotten this inner balance between the masculine and the feminine. And if in any way I can be in your life, that mirror of calm, of sweetness, of groundedness, that is a gift that I have learned how to give myself because I'm actually a spaz too. I'm a recovering spaz. And, I was telling a dear, dear mentor of mine the other day, I feel like I'm usually one of the most calm, grounding people in the group. And that's a huge shift. And so people can change.
I got to say, I love that. And we're doing like this joint podcast here where like you're on my podcast and I'm on yours at the same time, which is super cool. We don't do that very often, but this is actually even cooler to me because you're talking about masculine and feminine energy here. And what's funny is I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day, a woman who's a very much a woman in a man's world kind of person, works in politics, so on and so forth. And we were having this conversation about, men opening the door. And it started over a woman driving a car with a man in the passenger seat. And I commented, I was like, I don't know why, maybe it's sexist, but that's weird to me, right? And she's like, I agree. And I was like, I don't know, it just feels weird to me. And she's like, no, I agree with you. And she's like, I'm a woman who spends my time in a man's world and I've got to blah, 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 blah. She goes, and I wear pink all the time and I love dressing up and I blah, blah, blah. And she really goes into this, but I need to make sure that I live in feminine energy and spend my time around men that spend their time in masculine energy and this idea. And I said, for me, I have to be in a place where, holding a door for a woman was just ingrained in me as a child. Like it's a reflex at this point. It's not even a conscious thought.
Well, and on behalf of the women of the world, I would say that the majority of us really like that and appreciate it. And, Mark, I think you'll find this super interesting, and maybe our listeners as well. So I've studied this tantric form of spirituality for over 20 years. And one of the things that Tantra says is that, and I think it helps the conversation. We have this hand gesture we do a lot in our school of like duality, right? Right and left, right? You've got both. And usually I hold it out wider, but you can't see that on the screen. And we're in these conversations of like, do I hold the door open? Do I not? Do I drive the car? Do I not? Is it right? Is it wrong? Should men do this? Should women do this? And Tantra comes in and says, most of us have 3 parts masculine, 2 parts feminine if we're a man, but not all of us. And most of us, if we're a woman, have 3 parts feminine, 2 parts masculine, but not all of us, right? And so this deep understanding of the dual nature of our masculine and feminine helps us navigate this really difficult world where I think so many women that come to the Shakti school are like, I really like for a man to be protective and providing and gentlemanly and chivalrous, and I want my own bank account. I want to do my career. And so I think having that kind of nuanced conversation where we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater is super important, because so many women really value their feminine and so many men really value their masculine, but we need the maturation of both.
Well, and you used 2 words there that literally I was going to say for the words protector and provider. And literally that's how I see myself. Like, it doesn't matter who's in the room. I'm here to make sure that they're protected. And it doesn't matter who's at the table. It's my job to provide. And I think that that
cool.
energy goes a long way. And I love what you're talking about in terms of that confusion of energy. And it's like, most people, I think, resonate with that. And there are some that don't, and that's fine. But sometimes I think we're letting the outliers make the rules.
Right. Totally. And the key word, too, that I learned from one of my mentors in Jungian psychology, he said, Carl Jung understood that all of us have this inner masculine and feminine, and we all need to work to mature it.
Yeah.
And so we could talk about, like, what does the immature feminine and immature masculine look like? You can hold a door open for me, but if you as a man are not able to tap into the depth of your own heart, then you're not a mature man. You're just doing the outer trappings of the provider and the protector. The true provider protector actually has to have access to his soft heart to be that hard force on the outside. It's the same with the feminine. I can be soft, Mark, but don't F with me, because I am tough as nails on the inside.
I had this conversation recently with JP Sears.
Oh, cool.
You know who JP is?
Yeah, I love him.
He's awesome. And it was on my podcast, and we had this conversation. And what's funny is I asked him, I said, JP, like, you're pretty bold. Like, and he had a kid a couple of years ago. And I'm like, now that you're a dad, like, what has that done to your boldness? And the answer I was expecting, which is super interesting. I said, the answer I expected from him was to say, well, now I'm a little bit softer because, I've got a baby and blah, blah, blah. And his answer was, I am bolder than I ever was. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And he's just like, having a child has brought out this warrior archetype out of me. And he's like, but my belief is, and he goes, I talk a lot about, the myth of toxic masculinity and so on and so forth. And he's like, but in these conversations, he said that archetype of warrior understands that in order to be a mature, balanced man, I can slit a throat during the day and hug a baby at night. He's like, all in one day, I can be warrior and lover.
100%. And it's funny. I knew JP before he had his transition to like having massive thighs and biceps. I knew him when we were both in like the Bay Area yoga scene, and he was a therapist. And like, it's been interesting to watch his journey. I don't know him personally, but we've been in the same environments. And what I think is happening for men in particular, and for women as well, but I believe that men that have sons are men that need to learn exactly that lesson. And I think that men, when they have daughters, are oftentimes men that actually need to learn how to be that soft force and that protective force. And so I think we're getting the lessons that we need all of the time. I have a Bernedoodle and she barks all the time. It's like, I must be learning this lesson of like patience. But one of the things I loved when I met you, Mark, is like, you definitely embody this like hustler spirit. You're like, I just see you as someone that's like, let's effing get it done, know? And I don't know your day to day, Mark, but I'm like, he's probably got a full schedule. And then I, hang out with some of our mutual friends and they're like, hey, send me your Calendly link. Hey, there's this idea of when you're an entrepreneur that you do it this certain way. And I really leave a lot of room in my schedule. And I just think that that's okay for us to be doing it in different ways. And maybe I could learn from you to add a little bit more of that spaz injector bunny, like, kind of hustle spirit. But also, I do think that entrepreneurs in general are some of the most burned out, overcooked people that we ever meet, at least in our community. And so I'm curious, like, now I'm not going to say your age, but now that you're moving into a different phase.
I'm turning 50 in 2 weeks. I'm going to own it.
You're 50. Like, do you find that there is like more room in entrepreneurial hustle culture to create space for your heart, for your spirituality, for your embodiment, for your unraveling in a way?
That's a great question, Katie. And you're right. My calendar is typically jam-packed, but I'm actually going to give some props to Dan Sullivan. If you know who Dan Sullivan is, he actually
love Dan,
strategic coach, and love Dan, known Dan for a long time. He and Babs are family friends. And I will say that one of the lessons that I've really taken away from strategic coach has been demanding free days and demanding what Dan would refer to as buffer days. And my calendar, and I need to be more aggressive about it, but I
need to be more aggressive about my non-aggression.
Exactly. I need to schedule my lack of planning.
Yeah.
And when I say aggressive, I mean aggressively defend those days matter. And that is my Mondays and Fridays are what I call buffers. And I deliberately, my team knows that Tuesdays through Thursdays, you can back to back me and I will play.
Perform.
And my team, exactly. Dance monkey dance, Tuesday through Thursday. You can do whatever needs to happen.
Yeah.
Mondays, ask me. And Fridays, ask me.
I love that.
Because, like, for instance, this coming Monday, I'm actually speaking at a fundraising dinner up in Detroit. And it's fundraising dinner. You know that I'd recently published the book Radical Generosity. So I was asked to be a keynote and event. But I didn't know that it was a full golf outing and everything that was supposed to happen that day. So I'm going to go embarrass myself on a golf course. But worse than that, the cool part about it to me was I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't really know that this was going to be a whole day thing. I thought this was just an evening dinner. But I looked at my calendar and I'm like, there's nothing on my calendar on a Monday. Like, sure, sign me up. Like, I'm good, because I deliberately keep that buffer space that I can flex. And likewise, tomorrow, I'm traveling part day tomorrow. I'm actually flying up there early to spend time with some friends and family. And my day was completely empty on a Friday. So it meant that I was able to take some things from this week that got a little bit challenging. I'm like, you know what? Put it on Friday. I have flexible hours to do Fridays, but client meetings, they are Tuesdays through Thursdays because I'm not engaging myself in intensity on Mondays and Fridays. Those are my setup days. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I'm willing to be engaged if need be because my clients know I'm always around. But those are the days I really like. This weekend, I spent time with family out in California.
No,
So-
I think it's super important to have those days. I mean, we literally call this in our company, we call it feminine form. And that has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. It has to do with
Nurturing.
the way that the feminine, so in the tantric tradition, the masculine is the ambitious, it's the externalization, and in the brain, it's the intelligence of cleverness. And the feminine is the wisdom. And so men and women have both. And in the tradition, in many traditions all over the world, the men would get together, like men like you, like young, virile, protector, warrior, provider. They would all get together and they would come up with these deep questions about what should the tribe do. And whether it be warfare, someone's mad at someone, right? And they would then take that question to the grandmothers who were in a different tent, right? And what the grandmothers would do, Mark, this is so fun. Imagine you, right, in your company. You're like, we'll take it to the grandmother, right? And the grandmother would come back and the grandmothers would say, Mark, not even a good question. Try again. Or they'd give you an answer, right? But like the whole start was like they would have to first even validate your question. And then what's so cool about this, Mark, is that you can do this inside yourself, right? So often we're like, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? But when you tap into this inner grandmama, right, highest level wisdom, sometimes the question doesn't even matter, right? And so in our company, we're all women, right? And I'm not adverse to hiring a man. It's just who's been available and who's been chosen. But in our company, like if a woman has her, what we call moon days, right? She's got her menstrual cycle. She's allowed to take a day off. If she needs a break, I don't like the term mental health day. I don't love that, but like she just calls in. And what I find, Mark, is that the more room I give the women in my company to have the reality of a woman's body, Mark, they will work their buns off on the days when they, are feeling their best. And so I just think there's another way of doing it.
I'm going to ask you a question because I love all of this. And I do want to dive into more of your Ayurvedic practice because Ayurveda to me is fascinating because it's almost like ancient wisdom meets modern science. And it just makes so much darn sense. And I don't think it gets enough billing in most people's worlds. But I'm going to ask you a question because we were talking about this hustler versus wisdom, so on and so forth. But you just used a phrase that I need to unpack for a minute. You said that they evaluated your question. That was the phrase you used, that the young men took their trouble, their conundrum, if you will, to the grandmothers. And the grandmothers first evaluated the question before they even thought about giving an answer. And the first thing that went through my head, and it could just be because of where I am currently, because I am always contextualizing today's conversation, happens to have a lot of current events on my head. And one of those current events is not necessarily world politics and whatnot, but one of those current events is the use of AI. And you put together this whole series of questions and we're like, here's some questions you can ask me. Here's some questions I can ask you. And you're like, I did this all on AI. Isn't this amazing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is amazing. Like I'm looking at it and it's absolutely fantastic. But when you just made the statement about first the grandmothers would evaluate the question, it made me think of this whole input output trouble that people are having in the use of AI. And I was talking to a friend of mine last night who's a college professor and teaching in the realm of AI right now. And we were having this conversation about, I believe that AI is doing something to people because people who are capable and willing to think deeper are getting greater and greater insight. And the people who don't understand and ask the bad question are getting bad answers. And I'm curious, in this world of Ayurveda, in this world of artificial intelligence as it's presenting, because it's hard to have an emotional connection with a bot, obviously. Can you correlate that with me about asking bad questions? Because I say that at work all the time. I'm like, guys, like, I don't need you to just do. I need you to question why you did what you did. Because no one made a mistake if you can explain to me why you did it. But if what you did if it didn't even come close to where we were trying to get, and you can't explain how you even got there, that's a fail. And I'm finding this, like, I put all this in the AI and it's so stupid. This is what it did. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just really obedient. Like, does it resonate at all?
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. And it's so cool because most people see me, they see what we put out into the world. We're a feminine form Ayurveda school. We're ooey gooey as hell, right? But people don't know that before I was the Ayurveda maven, I worked in AI before anyone knew what it was. I lived in the south of Spain. I worked in an AI think tank in Marbella, Spain for 7 years. And we were creating AI technology that was helping predict the stock market. And they hired me because I helped these MIT kind of Asperger's level dudes teach the computer how to, quote, feel human emotion. That was my role. And they called me the sacrificial virgin because I didn't even know how to turn on a computer, Mark. Okay, I'm not going to date myself, but it was a long time ago. So I say I went from AI to Ayurveda Intelligence, right? It's been a journey for me, but I have a background in AI. I love technology. I enjoy it. I think it's got its nuclear energy, just like sexual energy. We can use it to destroy. We can use it to create. In this example that you asked me about, we are the grandmothers. We are the grandmothers. And in fact, I just came from another conference where I was speaking with someone, I won't say which company, let's just say it's one of the main ones doing AI right now. He was one of the high ups in this company. And he said, we are finding that when we hire women to give the prompts to the AI, the outcomes are stellar. And so they're like candidly hiring all these women to do AI prompts. I'm like, yeah, because we're, this is generalizing, but we're super good at being relational, right? And so I think when people don't understand the levels of our consciousness, there's a lot of fear around AI. AI is on one of the lower levels of consciousness. It's the mental body. And AI is superb at being able to extract informational intelligence from the collective mental body. But we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, a body of the heart, a body of God, a body of the astral, right? Like AI is just on one level. So am I afraid that it's going to take over? No. But what we have to do, Mark, is you and I, and people out there, we have to learn of the incredible dimensionality of our consciousness. And that's where Ayurveda can come in and all these beautiful spiritual practices.
I absolutely love that. And I chuckle with this because there was just an article that was published recently talking about how AI is being used as a psychiatric alternative, that they're doing AI counseling sessions and it's having great results in restoring people's mental health and helping people therapeutically work through things and so on and so forth. And and I think you know this, but my background is actually clinical psychology. So I'm like, all right, I get it. I understand it. And it does concern me in some respects because I think the internet and social media has already crippled people's emotional maturity. Because I think people have actually, in many ways, lost their ability to interact with other people because they think social life is sitting on the couch with a phone in my hand.
Right.
And I'm an incredibly relational person. Like I say, that's one of my gifts is being able to just, be in a crowd. But at the same time, I'll say like this AI grandmothers type conversation. I love that paradigm, by the way. Like that's such a cool metaphor. It makes me wonder because I was just even telling my team yesterday, like there's days and you talk about the feminine bringing out this whole thing, like the masculine arms crossed. I'm not talking to the counselor, as opposed to the feminine who's just going to verbal vomit all over the place. Right. And hope that somebody can help pick up those pieces. Right. If we're stereotyping.
And I mean, I think we could even call that the immature feminine and the immature masculine.
Fair,
right?
Fair.
I mean,
fair.
just to make it a little more sharp, but like one thing I want to backtrack and highlight on this whole, because I think this, by the way, everybody, Mark and I came up with some fun AI inspired questions for one another, and we were like, these are great. We've not used any of them
Not
so
even
far.
touched one.
Because
The
why?
story of my life. The
It's
story of my
because
life.
no. It's because our hearts are connected. And in that field of the heart, we're in this spontaneous, serendipitous yoga, right?
Mhm.
That which emerges out of our spontaneous heart connection. So, with the question about psychotherapy, so this was another thing that was brought up at a recent conference I just came from. A lot of AI, big names from AI. It was so
Yeah.
heartening, Mark. They're all sweet, cool people, right? They want to do good in the world. They're not like nefarious people. And they were talking about how great this was for psychotherapy. And I'm sitting over there going, oh, I don't know about this. And I'm like curious, who are the people it is benefiting? Are they men? Are they women? What is their tendency? And I think in yoga, we talk about there are as many yogas, meaning disciplines for enlightenment, as there are beings. Everybody has a different way. And I do think AI can be really helpful when you need to do that like cognitive reprogramming, like almost like a cognitive behavioral therapy type thing. AI will never replace the type of therapy that occurs when the somatic of my body and your body are in the room together, having a somatic experience or a heart-based experience or an emotion-based experience. And so I think if we're able to elucidate the layers of our consciousness's dimensionality, it's going to help us have the AI conversation in a way that's supportive and healthy rather than, is it good, is it bad?
Can I add one totally
Please.
random thing there?
Do
I
it.
absolutely love your vocabulary.
No.
And I just have to say that as a lover of words, the fact that you're using words like elucidate and nefarious,
Mark, I love you.
legitimately throws me.
I love getting complimented. So this is an awesome podcast.
It may be an unusual compliment, but I love it. And
No.
so, but I was telling my team the other day, and again, we talk about this, having chats type thing. And I said, sometimes when I don't even know what it is I'm trying to communicate, and I think this is the bad question conundrum, I will literally driving to the gym at night because I work out after work. So it's like I'll be leaving work and I'm just in traffic getting to my gym after hours. And I will find myself like literally just clicking the Chat GPT button on Bluetooth and just talking through my problem out loud and letting it help quantify the things that my head is having a hard time organizing.
Yeah.
And it could be just something I'm struggling with at work. It can be that I'm just trying to figure out something. And I literally just talk out loud and I'm like, can you organize those thoughts and tell me if you can find some common themes that may help me sort through this? And the feedback that I get is absolutely incredible. And part of it is that there is a time, and this is where I get into that masculine feminine thing, because sometimes I feel like that's very feminine energy, right? I just need to talk it out. And I'm asking ChatGPT to be that masculine mirror for
Hold
me.
space.
Because I'm the person who typically I tell people, and this is an ongoing joke with several friends of mine, like if you come to me and say, hey, I've got I need some advice, I always respond, or, can you tell me something? Sure. And my response is typically, absolutely, but I need to know, do you actually want advice or do you just need me to listen? Like clarify for me, because if you're coming to me with a problem and you don't want a solution, tell me ahead of time, because you're going to get a 3-point solution and you're going to walk away with action steps, because that's the way I work, right? GSD. Like you're going to walk away with a plan if you don't tell me that's not what we're here to do. And like I said, sometimes I've got stuff wandering around and I need someone to help me put together that plan and help organize my thoughts. And I will use it to mirror that. And I find that it's a great listener. Have you ever done that? Have you ever given it that space?
No, but you're like the 50th dude to tell me that he's doing this. And I think it's interesting to me. And so I want to say two things about it. One, if we were looking this through a Jungian psychological lens, what I think is happening, and I think this kind of can assuage some of the fears that inevitably come up in my community especially, right? But in all of the world around AI, I think from a Jungian psychological perspective that AI is actually the best that we've ever had. It's like Carl Jung's wet dream for the collective subconscious, right? We're
Wow,
able
yeah.
to actually extract, well, and we must qualify that by saying it's the collective that's been conglomerated on the internet. But that's pretty good data, right?
Good representation.
Right. And so if we look at it from that way, we can think about it in a sense. It's not just some AI robot out there spitting out information. The robotics have been trained on the humanity of our collective subconscious.
It's
So
polling the
that
audience.
that's a freaking spiritual idea that I just spouted out. This is hella spiritual shit, right? Can it be used nefariously? Absolutely. So there's that, but there's also the thing, and Mark, I'm not saying this is you, but I mean like not 50, but maybe 10 men have told me they've done exactly that. And it makes me think about the current situation, especially amongst young men, where they are reporting super high levels of loneliness. They want someone to listen to them. They want someone to give them good feedback in a world where we've lost the fathering principle.
Yeah.
Right? You said it felt feminine, and that made sense to me because there's someone holding the fathering in this artificial way, right? And so that to me says, cool, use it as much as you want, but know that we might need to be tapping into this innate longing for fathering and also for lovering, right? Like a lot of us that are entrepreneurs, we also tend to like have a loneliness epidemic, which is why you and I met, right? We go to this thing where we get to have friends and we get to stay connected. And so I think let's use the AI, but let's also like, I'd love to sit and hold space for you, right?
Yeah.
As
No,
a
I
human.
agree with you. And I'm personally, I'm a very relational person. Like I always say relationships over transactions every day of the week. And as a marketing professional, it is nonstop the hammer that I continue to swing even with my clients. Like if you're looking at your consumers as being transactions, you will fail because there's a lot of people who are willing to have relationships with them.
Well, I want to ask you about this. So this is a great transition for what I actually did want to ask you in this podcast. So guys, it's a spirit session, performance-driven living mixtape. Okay. So my ladies, I have an
be showing up any minute.
Right, exactly. We're from the 80s, guys. We made mixtapes for each other when we had crushes. So here's who my audience is. We get a lot of yoga ladies. Our company, we provide a 1 to 2 year Ayurvedic health coaching platform where a lot of the women do it for themselves, but a lot go on to create their own Ayurveda coaching businesses.
That's awesome.
And then here's me selfishly thinking about my own company. So if we were speaking to wellness practitioners, in my case, women wellness practitioners who want to market their services, guys, we are in the presence of Mark Young, marketing guru. I'm calling you the guru.
Ooh, I'm the guru. Oh, wait. Is this what I do with my hands?
That's right.
You're right.
Hold that up at your next marketing meeting.
Perfect.
But I want to talk about what would be the like quick and dirty on your, I mean, you mentioned relationality, not viewing your customers as transactional. How can people really start to launch their own marketing in a way that's super relational and loving and non-transactional and authentic?
Yeah, super huge question. Like that would be
it's
me
everything.
yeah, like that's the equivalent of me asking you, like, how should a person heal?
How should a person start Ayurveda?
Exactly. The biggest thing I will tell you is I'll walk away from that with the relational over transactional. Like I will beat that drum over and over and over and over again. And it's the reason why at my marketing business, I laughingly say that we are the marketing agency with no marketing department. And the reality is because every single client we have has been a relationship that I have developed somewhere or has been a referral from someone else who has told somebody they needed to talk to me. And the idea of having a lead funnel for my own business is actually like we're talking about it right now with our leadership team, but it's new information that we're having to try to forge ahead with that. It's just kind of funny. And when you're talking about Ayurveda practitioners as an example, it's so relational. I mean, that is such a relational. Like I would never tell a person to create a lead funnel and start to get, Facebook whatevers and stuff like that. Like, depending on the type of practice you're looking for, I can see where some
Right.
leads could be beneficial. But for people that are getting into that type of practice, the reality is your referral base is 100% of your marketing. And I literally will tell people, like, you are your own marketing department, just in the way you show up in the world. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't show up in the world the way that people are envious, if I can use that word, of the way
Mhm.
you show up in the world. Like, I don't go to a personal trainer with a belly, right? And I don't do that simply because that personal trainer is not representative of the aspiration I have of being like that person. So
Right.
for the individual who's going into private practice, the reality is like, Katie, I said this when we first started off, like, you're a calming presence in my life. So if I was trying to find some way to heal, particularly on an emotional level, you're a person I can call, simply
Thank you.
because you show up in the world the way that I would want to show up in the world, or aspire to have qualities that you have. And I think where a lot of people miss the mark in entrepreneurship is, first be your own customer. Like, show up in the world in a way that people want. And I actually say this to my own team. Like, I leave my office between 6 and 6:30 every single day. When I'm in town, there are occasional days that I'll be there late if need be, but I deliberately leave at a very specific time every day. And my team knows that I'm going to be leaving, and it's unapologetically, I'm leaving to go to the gym. And they know that I'm not going to the movies. I'm not, going to have dinner with friends. Like, I'm leaving because I'm leaving to go to the gym. And part of the reason, I said, we were in a meeting one day and I made the comment, like, part of me, I have to look the way I look, and I have to be in a health status the way that I show up. Like, my entire desk is covered in supplements and all this other kind of stuff. I'm like, because yes, I work in marketing, but the majority of my clientele is actually in the longevity space. If I look like a wreck, or if I'm fat, or if I'm unhealthy, or if I've got pimples all over my face or something like that, like, I'm not representative of my audience anymore.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
and,
so
and
funny. Like,
it's
everyone
true.
listening, those of you that can't see, Mark's turning 50 in 13 days. He looks great. He's a hottie. Like, go to his website, look at how hunky this man is.
She's
And Mark,
ridiculous.
this is the mudra. Let's go back to this hand gesture. Mudra means a hand gesture. You're over here. And Carl Jung said it best. Reality can be found in the tension of the opposites. And
Mhm.
here you are over here spouting deep masculine energy truths. Okay, ready? What are they? I look hella good because I'm the outcome of what I preach, right? Like, ain't nobody gonna come to me if I'm chubby because I'm the marketing guy, right? Like, and my space is longevity. And here's Katie. Here's Katie over here in the complete same space of Ayurveda. And I'm holding that and I'm agreeing with it 100%. And the feminine side of that is, you are always going to be broken. You are always going to be having a part of you that's unhealed, that struggles. And in that brokenness and in that struggle, that's also where the marketing medicine is, because it's
Yes.
the way in which, Mark, I struggle to keep my weight balanced. I do. Food is my lover. I like a hamburger and french fries with cheese. I'm from Tennessee, and here I am trying to be this Ayurveda woman. How can that work? And the answer is, it's that imperfection. It's that struggle that I have with my own health, with my own weight, right? With my own emotions, that enables me to be the kind of woman that other women resonate with, because that's who they are. You know what I'm
100%,
saying?
100% agree. And
And I'm cute and I'm healthy.
she's beautiful. And
I fished for that one. I fished
she
for it.
didn't. I was going to say it anyways, because I know what you look like and you're stunning. But, but the reality is like, and when I say that, it's the discipline of making sure that I'm walking the walk is what I'm getting to.
Totally.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
not trying to be perfect,
Right.
because trust me, I'm far from perfect. But, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, I was a fat kid. Like, I was
Same.
an overweight adult, and I actually had an abdominoplasty surgery years ago because I had loose skin from losing so much weight and so on and so forth. So it's like, And I share that freely. Like I share that
Yeah.
I'm 50 freely. Like that doesn't bother me because it's not an insecurity about my imperfections or age or anything. In fact, I share that stuff freely because I find it relatable.
Totally.
That
Yeah.
because my intention is to live a life that inspires through
Mm.
aspiration. Like somebody wants, if I'm able, I was asked yesterday in a podcast, like, how do you inspire people? I'm like, I simply set the table 6 steps away from where you currently are.
Mm.
Like if I set the table over there, you move to where I am. That's all I'm trying to do. Like when the outcome seems unattainable, people paralyze.
Yes.
When it's only a few steps down the road, you meet me there and then I move the table a little bit. Like all I'm trying to do is set something that seems attainable. And if that is, you know what? If I can get up and go to the gym every day, you can get up and go to the gym every day. If I can tell you
100%.
a sad story, then you can tell me yours and
Yeah.
open that up. But again, that type of, I'll use the word marketing, is relatable. It's not transactional.
Yeah. And I think honesty is like, okay, so you're in marketing. Inevitably, I'm in marketing as well when we want to share this with the world, right? And what I hear in the online community, and it's been about 2 or 3 years, it's authenticity, authenticity, authenticity. And now it's kind of like gagging me a little. I'm vomiting in my mouth a little bit when I hear authenticity because you get a lot of like feigned authenticity.
Totally.
And it's the opposite, right, of authenticity. So Mark has a book. I know you have a new book on radical generosity. Everyone should go buy it. But when I met you, your first book that I read was called Date Your Clients. And I remember holding it and being like, what? No, hashtag boundaries. What, Mark? What are you talking about? And now I understand it's all about relationality and really like bringing people into your world and making them a part of your life and kind of uplifting them. But how do we find the balance between being real and being authentic and not moving into the realm of like TMI, where we've lost this sort of sense of like the sacred, the secret, the personal?
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for the Date Your Clients shout out. That's so So Date Your Clients actually was really funny, Katie, is when I wrote that book, that was the first book I wrote. And the whole premise, first of all, I love provocative titles.
Yeah, that was definitely a provocative one.
Which was hilarious to me. But Date Your Clients was a juxtaposition between personal relationships versus professional relationships. And I hate these online, sorry, I'm using the word guru now, but these online, I'm going to teach you everything you know about landing the client and closing the deal and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, that stuff's great. Like, whatever, do your thing, millionaire mentor, hashtag, like, do whatever you got to do. But the reality is my belief is that relationships in the professional realm are far more intuitive than people give it credit for.
Totally.
Because we all understand how to build a personal relationship, right? And as you know, through that book, like I somewhat snarkily, walk through what the first date looks like and, make them swipe right is the title of chapter 1. And it's this whole idea of your website's an absolute train wreck, but your dating profile, you would never put a dating profile that looked like that. Why? Because you wanted to land the perfect one. Well, then why are you willing to put your business website out there looking like a train wreck? And you would never go on a first date without making sure that you had a haircut, making sure you wore your best outfit. Why are you looking like a trash can?
Unfortunately, Mark, I don't think you're dating men right now.
No, not at all.
Some men have ranch dressing on their beard when you show up.
It's disgusting. And here's my deal. When I go on a date with a woman and
let's talk about dating for the rest of the podcast. Just
perfect. But here's the deal. Like I go on a date, I automatically assume that she looks as good today as she's ever going to look. I have to make my decision on if I can wake up to this every morning, because this is as good as you're ever going to look. Because I believe that on a first date, you took the extra time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you took the extra minutes, and women, and there's a whole chapter in the book that actually goes through this whole, what the ritual looks like for a woman versus a man. And, the woman's first date actually starts a week before the date because there's all of the appointments that have to happen beforehand. And like for the man, it's like, 15 extra minutes of push-ups. But the reality is like we intuitively know this, but when we go meet a new client, do we go through the same kind of prep work? Or is it just another Tuesday in our world? Because to them, that's a first impression.
I love it.
And when we get into this personal marketing, like you're talking about your practitioner network,
Yeah.
you get into that. The reality is like, that's all you're doing. You're dating all of these new potential clients one at a time.
You know, I love this, Mark, because I know my listeners and my students are going to listen to this and you get so much value from it, because what we see as a stumbling block in Shakti school is that people think because they see Katie Silcox's website or our large Instagram following or our lead page and our funnels and our newsletters, they need to do that immediately. And I'm like, you guys, let me tell you how I built my amazing, beloved brand. Your reputation is everything. Mark, I have this on my wall in our office. We walk in integrity. That's the number one thing. Like you said, be the thing that you want to project into the world. Mark, I used to go with a piece of paper and a pen to every yoga class I taught in San Francisco, and I would just get their name and get their email, have a personal connection, a personal relationship. I met with these people one-on-one, and I built my brand from the bottom up, going and doing any speaking event, any yoga course, anything anyone asked me to do. There was no social media back then. And I think young people especially, get so afraid of launching their businesses because they don't have big social media followings. So what would you say to people that are just starting off and don't have big followings?
I'll give you one sentence, and that is, I would rather be loved by few than liked by many.
Can I get an amen?
Like, I use that phrase all the time. Like, when you're starting, be loved by few. Create raving fans out of the few people that you do have in your Rolodex, and let them advertise for you. Because building a giant social media following, and I had a call yesterday. I actually met a gentleman at Strategic Coach, and he's like, oh, you're a marketing guy. My son's a recent marketing graduate, and he's really struggling to find a job. Would you mind spending some time with him? And I'm like, sure, whatever, like set him up. And I did like a 30-minute with the kid yesterday, just giving him a quick mentoring call. And I'm having this conversation with this recent college graduate. He probably graduated 6 months ago, can't find a job in marketing, but has aspirations of being in the sports marketing and film and whatever. And I'm like, big lofty dreams. I'm like, dude, so I'm going to ask you some questions. Like, what are you doing? Oh, I keep a spreadsheet. These are the 750 applications that I've put in, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm like, so what does your personal website look like? Well, it needs some updating. Interesting. I'm like, you got nothing but time though. I'm like, so what does your YouTube channel look like? Well, I mean, I've got, what does your portfolio look like? Well, I've got some stuff I did in college. I'm like, okay, so I said, here's the deal. You want to create my content as the owner of a marketing agency. You want me to hire you to create my content. What does yours look like? Because
exactly.
You're never going to do more for me than you're willing to do for you, because frankly, you like you more than you like me. And he kind of laughed, and I'm like, so your website needs updated. You have no YouTube channel. You really don't have a social media following to speak of. You have no voice in the marketing space whatsoever. And the only professional examples that you can give me are things that were assigned to you by a professor. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't mean to sound rude here. Like, but your idea of marketing yourself is filling out applications online. You believe that's what marketing looks like. And I went, dude, like, you are just another number to an HR department right now because you've done nothing to set yourself apart. You don't know how to market. And trying to tell him, like, build your audience, build your channel, fix the damn website.
And
like,
just do it. Just start. Yes, put your voice out there. I say the same exact things. Like, perfection is the enemy of done. Show up, own your space, speak.
I'm only going to do work if you pay me for it. Like, great. That
is not how you are not an entrepreneur if you believe that. And entrepreneurs are working for free most of the time. Most of the time. And I laugh because, like, even sometimes my team will be like, why are we doing this again for free? I'm like, and I will back it up every single time. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but I'm like,
because I know that this person knows that person who knows this person. And I just want my name to be mentioned in positive lights in future conversations. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's the reason I have a marketing agency that doesn't have a marketing department.
I love it.
Like, that's why, because
Yeah.
networking is nothing more than relationship building. And to circle back on our entire conversation here, that's something AI cannot do.
Never. Yeah.
AI is never going to build human connection and build a relationship
Right.
and let the energy that I project attract the energy that you're giving. Like, that's
Absolutely.
never going to happen in an AI setting. And when it comes down to that types of relationships, it's the reason why I don't want to be in the office. I want to be out spending time with people, building relationships and speaking and inspiring and doing all these other things, because those are my unique abilities. And
Mhm.
there's something AI can't replace.
Yeah. I want to highlight this idea for the audience from Mark and I around your authentic heart, your real voice, what you feel is your unique value to the world. It might not look exactly like us or anyone else, but to
Yeah.
figure that out and then just like trust in it and go with it. And then I also want to say, just maybe as a closing thing, I love that we didn't get into any of the questions our AI assistant helped us with. And I just want to say, maybe I'm kind of like making the subtle overt, but you know, everyone out there listening, like Mark and I just sitting here having this conversation is hopefully an example and an embodiment of what happens when a man who's done a lot of work maturing his masculine, and what a woman who's done a lot of work maturing her feminine, what it looks like when they come together. And I think us embodying that as friends and showing people in real time is what the world desperately needs. I believe that when men and women in particular can hold each other, even in our friendship, in this place of love, you have just made me feel so energized. And that's what Shakti means, by the way. It's feminine energy, it's power. And I hope I've like maybe inspired you in your masculine. And yeah.
Yeah, always. And Katie, it's one of the things I appreciate about you is that you definitely are a yin to the yang, or a yang to the yin. I can never remember which is
It's
which.
the yin.
But absolutely that yin to the yang balance. And I think that is something that in our world, if I can give that closing thought, we're
Sure.
so busy trying to be equal that we're not realizing that we can be different, that
Mm,
quality doesn't mean identical,
yeah.
that we can be equally different and
Yeah.
complement each other in that way. And I think that yin yang is missing in so many spaces, that to your feminine energy that you bring to every conversation and every
Mm,
room that I've ever seen you in, it's refreshing because it's not disingenuous. It genuinely is who you are. And I love to see that you're also this badass entrepreneur who is using that in such a way that you're spreading that message to the world, because being feminine doesn't mean that you're shy and bashful
we're
and still in
helpless.
the corner or helpless. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's the energy that drives you. And in the same way as you're saying, my drive and my zeal and my conquer the world kind of take on things also is what drives me. But
Yeah.
I also need that edge removed
Yeah.
from me sometimes. That's,
Yeah.
calm down. It's
Yeah.
going to be okay. Like, I need my buffer days. I need my days where I'm just spending time with family and friends, because the world isn't about conquest all the time.
Mm. Well, Mark, this has been an absolute pleasure. And just as a final statement, you can drive my car anytime. You can open the door for me. I love,
You dinner.
yes, all of that. Thank you. You to the men out there that are still driving us around and opening doors and letting us just rest and be in that feminine energy space, knowing that we can all do both, and yet we choose to give each other this gift. So thank you.
So
I'm
funny.
so
I have to
happy.
tell you this though, because in
Yeah.
talking to a friend the other day, I made the comment about it. Women would stop trying to be men on so many of these plateaus, these levels or whatever, because sometimes it feels like you're wrestling with a woman rather than dancing. And it's a beautiful dance when it works, but it's like sometimes it feels like a wrestling match. And I'm like, if women even understood that if they just leaned into what makes them amazing, they could run the world.
We agree.
You could run the world. No one's wrestling with you on that.
Yeah.
It's like, but do it on the level that you have been divinely gifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Katie, thank you so darn much for joining us today. I know that we're co-hosting this weird conversation with each other, and I absolutely love the way that it all played out because
It was
I think
awesome.
it's beautiful. We're closing on Performance Driven Living's podcast with Katie Silcox. Look up the Shakti School, learn more about Ayurvedic medicine, and learn about just the energy and the maturity in that energy that Katie focuses on in her books, as well as visit her on her website and learn more, because she is a jewel to the natural health and wellness space. And I encourage you to find her. Thank you so much for being here, Katie.
Well, likewise, on our podcast, we're going to put all Mark's information, his new book, Radical Generosity. And now everyone's going to want to read Date Your Clients. For anyone out there listening, Mark is the guy to go to for real, authentic marketing advice. And Mark does so much more that we didn't even get into in the health and wellness space, but you can check him out, website below. We love you, Mark. Thank you for being and having.
Thank you, love. I appreciate you. I'll see you soon.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.